After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' assistant, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give to them, to the Israelites. I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. Joshua 1 and verse 1, hearing the voice of God. I would like us to study very briefly this conversation of God with Joshua. If you look at Joshua 1 from verse 2 to verse 9, you will notice it is God who is speaking to Joshua. And after Moses died, this is a first direct conversation of the Lord to Joshua without an intermediary called Moses. Let us look at it briefly. So if you look at verse 2, Joshua 1 verse 2, when the Lord speaks, number 1, he says, now then, you and all these people, get ready to cross the river Jordan in the land I am about to give to them. So when God speaks, the voice of God makes you ready for launching or commissioning. Moses is dead. They are not doing anything. But the moment God spoke, that voice made them ready. You may never know if you are now ready for public consumption. You may never know when you are ready for manifestation. But the moment you hear the voice of God, that voice makes you ready for that engagement. Remember, even Moses, he started the ministry by himself, and then he had to run away for 40 years. But when he heard the voice of God from the burning bush, he did not need to fast 40 days. He did not need to start praying. He did not even need to start saying, Holy Spirit, come. The voice made him ready for the job. That one is very powerful. So when God speaks to you, that's why he was telling Jeremiah, stop saying that you're a child. I have spoken to you. My voice makes you mature. Number 2, he says, I will give you every place where you set your foot. When God speaks, the voice of God equips you with possessing or acquiring energy. Every foot you step on, I give it to you. I know people keep on practicing this verse that the Lord has said in Joshua 1 verse 3, that every place where I will set my foot, I will possess. And you have been doing that and you have never possessed even an inch. Why? Because what gives you the inherent power is the voice of God that you heard. That you notice, you can be very good in theology. Very good in theology, you have even a degree, or even 2 degrees or 3 degrees, but you cannot possess a territory. But a person who is a primary level dropout does not even know how to write their name properly, but they have possessed a territory. They have possessed cities. They have possessed nations. But those of degrees, even where they operate from, they are not conclusively known. So the voice of God gives you the power to possess. Number 3, he says, your territory will extend from the desert to the Lebanon and from the great rivers, the Euphrates, and all that. When the voice of God speaks, the voice of God defines the boundaries of your territory. You don't occupy too small, and you do not occupy extravagantly. The voice of God, when it is heard by your ears, that voice releases in you the power to spread until you have occupied the space ordained by God for you. Many people are operating from a point of limitations. You're operating from a very small sphere, but the capacity that you carry is of occupying a broadened space. Hear the voice of God. The voice of God now makes you spread your frequency, or your energy, or your vibration is able to move out of the way and occupy the whole territory that is assigned for you from heaven. Something else, no one will be able to stand up against you all the days of your life. When you hear the voice of God, you become indomitable. You become more than a conqueror. You become a person of triumphal procession. When you hear God, nobody can stand against you. Why? The voice of God makes you to be God. Makes you to be God. That's why when Moses heard the voice of God, he is telling Pharaoh, are you going to accept what I'm telling you, or kaende? And by the time Pharaoh was accepting what Moses was asking for, let my people go, Moses had destroyed Egypt. Why? Because God told Moses, you will be like a god to Pharaoh. So when you hear the voice of God, you become indomitable. Wow. Something else is, as I was with Moses, so will I be with you, and I will never leave you nor forsake you. When you the voice of God, when you hear the voice of God, guarantees you the active presence of God. The voice, you hear God speaking, and then he does not speak again. You do not need any gadget to measure whether the road is around you. That voice, do you know why? Because the road will never abandon what he said before it is fulfilled. So the voice of God confirms the active presence of God. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their forefathers to give them. Something else is this: when you hear the voice of God enables you or helps you define your life purpose. Now the Lord is speaking to Joshua, and through that Joshua is understanding the purpose of his ministry is to go to make these people inherit the land. And then when you hear the voice of God burdens you. It makes you to become of a lion heart. When you hear the voice of God, fear and doubt will expire automatically. And then the Lord continued to say, be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the commands and all that. Then we can look at the verse Gabi. Then verse 8 part B says, then you will be prosperous and successful. When you hear the voice of God, immediately after that voice, you start to prosper and to succeed. You start now to walk with the spirit of excellence and the spirit of prosperity. Everything you do prospers and succeeds. How did Joshua position himself for this voice of God? Number one is the book of the law. The Lord was telling him, read this book of the law, this book of covenant. That was very, very important. Something else is, I told you, is because of Moses' spiritual father or spiritual cover. The Lord was saying, as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. Spiritual cover